But around Thanksgiving, after he was elected, you wrote in the New York Post that he called you and you think he's ready to be one of America's great presidents. You said that you've been struck by the realization that he's a changed man.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that's looking now.
Not great, because he unfortunately has reverted to type. But more worryingly, I think, for his legacy, he has begun to do things which he specifically campaigned on the opposite. Not going into war in the Middle East, for example, focusing on America first and getting inflation down and so on. Well, why would you launch a global trade war and why would you go to war with Iran if actually those campaign aims were your priority? It's the opposite. It's going to have the opposite effect, as we've seen. So I think it's unfortunate.
The fastest way to break a famous television host is to read their very own quotes right back into their face. What you are about to watch is the exact second where media talking points smash directly into cold, hard reality. Piers Morgan has spent decades claiming he is a fair-minded centrist who can always see the full picture. He loves to sit in the host chair and lecture the entire world about balance and fairness. But when Tim Miller pulls out the exact articles Piers published after the election, the whole act falls completely apart on camera. Tim does not just share basic opinions. He brings the exact receipts from the past. He details how Piers publicly told everyone that Donald Trump was a totally changed man, ready for historic greatness. Watch how uncomfortable the veteran host gets when he is forced to admit his own predictions were totally wrong. This is what happens when independent voices stop following the old script and start asking real questions. This is Trent Williams, where we pull back the curtain and hold the powerful accountable. Let's get into it.
Let's go back to some Trump thoughts that you've had. But around Thanksgiving, after he was elected, you wrote in the New York Post that he called you and you think he's ready to be one of America's great presidents. You said that you've been struck by the realization that he's a changed man.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that's looking now.
Not great, because he unfortunately has reverted to type. But more worryingly, I think, for his legacy, he has begun to do things which he specifically campaigned on the opposite. Not going into war in the Middle East, for example. Focusing on America first and getting inflation down and so on. Well, why would you launch a global trade war and why would you go to war with Iran if actually those campaign aims were your priority? It's the opposite. It's going to have the opposite effect, as we've seen. So I think it's unfortunate. I did think that Trump Mark II, particularly after he survived several assassination attempts, I felt, talking to him, he was a bit of a changed character. But, there's also the reality check. He's just turned 80. There aren't many people who turn 80 who suddenly become different people. I do think that he has, he's had, I'm sure we'll talk about this, he's had some things which have been great successes, and he's had other things that have been big failures. He's still not even quite halfway. Well, how long's he got till the next election? Like 2.5 years. So he's still, he's not even halfway through his second term. He's got time to pivot and change course. The concern I would have if I was advising Trump is that I think it's looking more likely than not he might lose control of the House and the Senate in the midterms. And if that happens, he'll become a lame duck, which will be, for him, about as bad as life gets.
With the World Cup happening this month, I keep coming back to one thing. Every athlete out there has a whole team tracking everything regarding their health. Biomarkers, recovery sleep, whether or not you kick the ball or the grass, if you're the goaltender, the USA, when the ball heads your way. You don't have to play for a national team, though, to deserve that kind of care. I'm not playing in the World Cup. I'm just going to ladies' weights class, but I still want health insights to keep my body working right. Elite athletes don't guess about their health. They measure it, and life demands you at your peak too. Whether that's your little hit class, basketball with the kids, dancing at music festivals, going for long walks in the New Orleans heat. Same attention pros give their body is finally something the rest of us can have too. So I'm using Function 160 lab tests a year, the kind of full body picture pro athletes pay a fortune for, not guessing, just knowing where you stand so you can show up at your best, check your health the way I do. Function provides 160 plus lab tests for just $1 a day and member pricing on advanced imaging. Join at functionhealth.com/thebulwark and use code thebulwark25 for a $25 credit. This is a frustrating thing, though, for some of us. They'll get accused of having TDS, saying that we only want to talk about Trump. It's like, you've known Trump for so long, and you've known Trump for longer than I have. I had his number the first second I saw him talk about politics. He is the most obvious person in history. Like, he is not at all subtle. He's not changed at all, actually, since the 1980s. He's been the same exact. Maybe he's a little bit less of a woman hound now. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's not working as well or whatever. He has different interests. But like, besides that, like, he hasn't changed at all. Like, he's the same. And so how did he run for president 3 times and have smart people like you get tricked by him again into thinking that he could be better or different? He's Trump. He's Trump.
But because actually he can be quite mercurial in that sense. And I do think, certainly the conversation I had with him a week after he got shot, he was definitely sounding so unlike the Donald Trump I knew. He actually sounded quite vulnerable in that conversation. I was quite startled. And I really did believe that he was, second time round, he would do things differently, but would be more mindful of his legacy, having been given a second chance. An interesting question I'd throw back at you, Tim, is do you think that the way that you guys on the left went after Trump in that first term and during his 4 years in the wilderness, a lot of it legitimate, a lot of it bullshit, but do you think the intensity of the rage against Trump, the TDS, if you like, actually contributed to him being re-elected? Because I do. So I felt at the time it was self-defeating. I felt the fact that so many on the left thought it was quite normal to call Trump the new Hitler and call people that supported him Nazis and so on was utterly self-defeating. And before you say it, I know J.D. Vance called him a Nazi. Yes, that was wrong too. But the point I would make is if actually all you had done as a collective body on the left to pick Trump off about stuff that he got wrong and focused on policy rather than rhetoric, I think you would have been more successful. And I don't think you would have won second time round.
So here's the problem with that, Piers. Fair. Obviously, it's irrefutable point because he got back in. So sure, obviously, whatever we did was not successful.
Right.
But my counterpoint to that is, okay, what do you want me to do? Be a liar? Shine his turds? Pretend like he's something that he's not? Look, if the honest truth is, everybody who goes in to work for Trump and then has a falling out with him and leaves sounds like me. In the end, John Kelly, thought he's a fascist. Mattis, Scaramucci, we could go down the list. They all sound like me because I'm saying the truth about him. And so, like, what else am I supposed to do? Like this idea that I'm supposed to like hand it to him from time to time. It's like, oh, he did a good job.
Let me do a test. Tell me one good thing Trump has done.
I love that you're trying to take the host seat back from me again. That's good. It's a skilled move.
Go on.
It is. It's fruit from a rotted tree is the answer to the question.
Well, give me one.
Here are the two things that people would say.
What would you say? Not people. What would you say?
The Abraham Accords is something that people say. That's turned out to be a shit sandwich. No, I think everything has turned out to be a shit sandwich.
So what do you think he's done that's been good?
Nothing.
Well, there we go.
I think that it's a disaster.
So right there, I'm afraid, is a classic example of a clear symptom of Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, well, what do you think he's done that's good? Let's go back. Let's go
obviously shutting the southern border to stop millions of people.
Let's debate that. But I think that's totally wrong. America is a free country. You're an immigrant. Honestly, I'm not sure if you're so happy about his border policies, why you think that your show should be allowed to be played on YouTube in this country.
Because I applied at like legal people do.
Okay, we're sending people away.
I applied to be a legal worker in the United States.
So did the Haitians.
For a visa. Right?
So did the Haitians. The Haitians that have TPS. They did the same thing.
Why would you
We're sending them back. Why don't we should send you back too.
Why would you? I'm here legally when I work in America.
So were the Haitians. So were the Haitians that got temporary protected status. Now we're sending them all back.
Why do you think I disagree with you?
Well, because you just said that his immigration policy was the thing that you think that he's done well.
Stopping millions of people coming over the southern border illegally without going through any process was wrong. It happened under Biden to catastrophic levels. I think Trump closing down the southern border to that extraordinary tidal wave of illegal immigrants.
It was already solved before he came in.
It wasn't already solved. But why can't you just give him credit for doing that?
Because I'll tell you why. It's a fair critique of Biden. I agree with your critique of Biden. The Biden policy got out of hand. Much too late. This is a political criticism of him. Biden went to the Congress and tried to come up with a solution. Trump scuttled that solution, and then he did it via executive order. And the border crossings at the end of 2024 around election time were nothing problematic. We are a free country. The idea that right now it's preferable to have negative immigration in this country, which is what we have right now, more people are leaving than are coming in. That is horrible for our economy. It's outside of the American tradition. The only people we're letting in are white South Africans. It's fucking crazy. It's un-American and it's wrong. I think it's
also un-American, especially for those who have come into the country legally and done it properly. It's also un-American to just allow millions of people to come in illegally over an open border. No, as Ronald Reagan said so clearly, without a border, you're not a country. And
great.
You should
so
agree.
Let's do the Reagan and Obama policies. I liked the Reagan and Obama border policies, not the Trump border policies. So no, do you have any other ones you think he's done well?
Well, okay.
Anything else?
You mentioned Obama as a glimmering, shining light of immigration policies. Okay, let me do my favorite question to my liberal friends. How many people did Obama deport in 8 years?
Obama deported a lot.
How many? How many?
I don't. I'm not doing the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz thing. It was millions. It was millions. It was a lot. Yeah, it was millions. It was a lot.
It was 3 million. Okay. Yeah. Now, the significance of that is that made him pro rata to this day by far the biggest deporter of people in American presidential history. But you cited him as an immigration, shining light.
He did the thing you said you want, Piers. That the numbers were so great because at the border they came in and got turned around, and that counts as one. What Trump is doing is not only shutting down the border, but also menacing people in cities in the interior of the country, and so
but
the
I don't
numbers.
Agree with that. But I don't agree with that. So
that's what he's doing. That's the difference.
It sounds to me, unless I misheard you, you just praised Obama for turning people around at the border, but you criticized Trump and said you should
shutting down the border completely.
Because we're a country of free people, we should let everyone in. So which one is it?
Yeah. No, we shouldn't let everybody.
Does it depend who the president is?
Piers, I didn't say we should let everybody in. I said that if you just look at it in whole, you're talking about the number of people Obama deported. Sure. We also were letting people into the country, as we should during the Reagan. This was bipartisan during Reagan.
I don't disagree.
Bush, Obama. And that's great. And we should have an immigration process. And by the way, Obama tried to go to the Republicans back then and tried to cut a deal where we let dreamers stay in the country. And the Republican hardliners that turned into Trump were the ones that stopped comprehensive immigration reform. It was my people, the moderate Republicans, that tried to work with the Democrats to have a reasonable immigration policy. That got scuttled time and again by these nativists that don't want anybody in the country. And so my question back to you is, if you look at this from the biggest picture, right? Like, this movement towards nativism that you had in your country and we had in ours, that started with Brexit and then resulted in Trump. We are now 10 plus years into that, over 10 years, over a decade in. If you look back on that and you said, hey, we could go back to 2013 and do this over again and not do that, would you take that deal?
Well, it's more complicated because right in the middle of that, you have a 4-year tenure by Biden, which particularly in relation to immigration was a complete disaster.
Yo, I've got a busy schedule. We're churning out content. We're also parenting. We're trying to have a life. We're trying to, grow a little media company here. So I'm always looking for ways to multitask and save time. I'll listen to another pod to prep for a guest while I'm on the way to get coffee or cooking dinner. We're doing subscription and delivery services so we don't have to go shopping. I don't iron, that kind of thing. We all have our own time-saving hacks for everyday life, but if you're a business owner, you can save time hiring with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter has a new feature that quickly lets you see the most interested qualified candidates first, so you save time by meeting the right people faster. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Bulwark. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly, and candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. Save time and meet great candidates sooner with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Bulwark. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Bulwark. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Okay, no, I'm not talking about just immigration. I just mean as a project, as a political project. Brexit and Trump are related. We agree on that, right? Like it's this kind of nativist sovereignty, idea on the right, like this nativist right.
Well, I have no problem. I'm not right wing.
Brexit has been a disaster, and Trump's been a disaster, right? They both have failed. Both projects have failed, right?
Well, the Trump project is ongoing. Let's judge it at the end of the second term, is what I would say.
How's the trajectory?
Well, I think it's better to judge presidents at the end of a term, right? Let's see what he does in the last 2.5 years. I suspect he'll be poleaxed by what happens
in the
midterms.
What about Brexit?
Brexit, my position on that is I voted to remain in the European Union. I didn't think Brexit was a good idea. I didn't trust the people selling it, Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage. I thought they were snake oil salesmen. And 10 years later, since that referendum took place, there's been no sign to me of it being anything other than a failure. So my argument to the new incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, the new Labour Prime Minister, who would take his position in a couple of weeks, is if you were to have another referendum, there's nothing stopping you. I reckon you would have a 70% landslide vote by the British people to go back into the European Union.
So why can't you see the same clarity with our
The complete panic on that screen shows you the broken nature of modern corporate media. For years, famous pundits have enjoyed a totally one-way street. They write bold columns in big newspapers, make huge claims to millions of viewers, and then quietly pretend they never said a single word once the wheels fall off. But Tim Miller completely refused to let the host hide from his own record. He forced Piers Morgan to sit there, look in the mirror, and face the exact words he gave to the public. Notice how fast Piers tries to flip the entire script the second his old columns are read aloud. Instead of just admitting he bought into empty promises, he immediately tries to label his guest as having a syndrome. That is the oldest distraction tactic in the entire political media playbook. When an elite commentator gets caught in a massive contradiction, they try to make the person asking questions look crazy. They want you to believe that if you do not offer blind praise to a failing project, you are the one who is out of touch. Piers tries to claim that serious media figures must always find small things to praise, even when the broader plan is creating massive instability. But as Tim pointed out, putting a fresh coat of paint on a broken engine does not fix the vehicle. You cannot look at economic damage, global tensions, and broken promises and then pretend everything is fine just to create a false sense of neutrality. This debate shows the massive gap between genuine political truth and corporate cable entertainment. Pundits love to treat critical political choices like a noisy circus or a cheap food fight. They bring on loud guests to yell at each other for high views, while selling everyday people the fantasy that self-serving politicians will magically turn into wise leaders overnight. While regular working people deal with the real fallout of high prices, global trade fights, and failed promises, the wealthy media class simply invents a brand new talking point and moves on. They never want you to look backward, because looking backward exposes their total lack of judgment. We are completely done letting celebrity hosts rewrite their past while lecturing the public about common sense. The era of letting elite pundits wash away their bad predictions with cheap labels is totally finished. When you bring the actual record and the cold hard quotes, their moral authority vanishes in seconds. This is Silas Wire. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.